What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Zachary Smith. If you aren't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave me a like, hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single video that I'm putting out over here. And also comment below and let me know how you feel about this video. Let me know how you feel about any past videos, what you'd like to see in the future, all that good stuff. Huge shakeup in the 2023 NFL draft order with the Panthers jumping from 9 to 1, the Bears getting an absolute haul, including multiple picks and also wide receiver DJ Moore to help Justin Fields in that offense. So I think really good job by the Bears to get value out of that pick. We knew that they weren't going to stay at 1, sliding all the way to 9. A lot of people thought maybe they wouldn't do that because they still wanted to keep Will Anderson and Jalen Carter within striking distance. Maybe Jalen Carter still is going to slide, after this stuff, the situation that happened while he was at the combine. That is yet to be seen. But either way, really like this deal for the Bears. And anytime you're talking about, trying to find your next franchise quarterback, there are very few prices that you won't pay. So for the Carolina Panthers, I think Tepper just got tired of waiting, really. And he was like, all right, we're going to get our guy. Who is that guy? I think there's two options, but I'm leaning heavily one way. And we will get into this and you will see which way I'm going. I think a lot of people are feeling this direction about it now, kind of giving away who I'm going to take, but I'll share my screen and then we'll get rolling here. We are using mock draft database for this draft. You guys have seen me use a bunch of different ones in different videos on this channel. Use Pro Football Network for my mock draft exercises. I've been doing for every team. I've used PFF a little bit. So just kind of jumping around using different ones. I enjoy that aspect of it too, just because different rankings on different sites. But without further ado, share my screen and we'll get rolling. Okay, so yeah, number one, like I said, with Carolina moving up there to do that, I think CJ Stroud's the guy. I do not think that Bryce Young is a Frank Reich guy. I don't think they're going to be the team that wants to bank on him being an outlier. I just don't see it. Frank Reich has never coached a quarterback under 6'3", 6'4", somewhere in that range. CJ Stroud's like right at that threshold. NFL accuracy, made a ton of NFL throws at Ohio State. I think they think that game against Georgia is more of what the player that he can be at the NFL level. Some plays broke down. He was using his legs. He was really good out of structure in that game, unlike he was or showed a lot of the season. I think people are thinking, man, maybe that was just a product of Ryan Day in the offense. CJ Stroud is definitely talented enough on his own to be that type of football player. I think he ends up being QB1 in this class because it's Carolina now making the pick. I think he is their guy. The other guy is Anthony Richardson. Bryce Young, to me, is not within those top two options for Carolina. Again, just don't think that he fits what they are looking for. However, I do think he fits what the Houston Texans are looking for, and I think he would be QB1 on their board. So I think both teams still get their guy. Houston doesn't really lose out too much on the fact they didn't have the number one overall pick, other than if they didn't want to take this guy, they could have gotten an absolute haul like Chicago did. But Chicago very much thanking them for Davis Mills, that 4th and 20 completion, scoring the touchdown, and then going for 2 to win in the last week to give the Bears the number one overall pick to afford them getting that haul. Pretty run of the mill so far, and we're going to continue that way. Arizona lost so much on the edge. They need to just get better on defense. I do think this is a potential trade back spot. We aren't going to be doing that for this exercise. Will Anderson Jr. is still on the board. In my opinion, the best player in the class. I just think he's one of the two blue chip players between him and Jalen Carter. And I think, when you talk about being able to add him off the edge, Arizona desperately needs pass rush help. If I'm them, I'm sticking and picking Will Anderson. I understand, if you feel like you have your franchise quarterback in Kyler Murray, who isn't going to be playing a lot of next season, likely, wanting to see if there's a haul out there for somebody that wants to move up and get an Anthony Richardson or a Will Levis. But in this scenario with Will Anderson still on the board for them, just stick and pick, get the best football player. For Indy, this is actually something I've mocked them in a separate mock draft doing the Indianapolis Colts 4-round mock draft. I really think Anthony Richardson is Shane Steichen's guy. Chris Ballard, maybe he has to be talked into this pick a little bit by Shane Steichen, but with a lot of things that they did with Jalen Hurts in Philly, I think they can do with Anthony Richardson here in Indy. If Indy were to move up to number 1, I would have made the same case that I did for Carolina, being that it'd be CJ Stroud or Anthony Richardson. Here, they kind of have to settle with Anthony Richardson, in my opinion. I've seen a lot of people say they think Will Levis is their guy, would be Chris Ballard's guy. I'm on the Anthony Richardson train here. He banked on the traits. For him, I mean, for anybody, it's about landing spot, right? But I think for him, it's even more important. I just think in Shane Steichen's offense, you can simplify a lot of things. You can use what he does best in, designed runs, some RPO stuff, really take advantage of that arm strength. And he's definitely got to get some more weapons too in the passing game, by the way. But there's a lot of big targets there for Anthony Richardson. When he misses, he does miss high. So get him some trees in that offense. Let him rip it. 5 to Seattle. See, this is where like the draft begins, in my opinion, for me, because I feel very comfortable at this moment in time with those first 4 picks. Those are very popular first 4 picks. I've watched a lot of different mock drafts, and people are, on board a lot of the times with those same first 4. The question for Seattle at 5 is, are they going to be the team to stop the Jalen Carter slide? Edge certainly in play with like Tyree Wilson. Again, somebody that is getting a ton of draft hype right now. A lot of people saying he could be edge 1, go over Will Anderson. I don't personally see that. Miles Murphy, I think, could be potentially in play. Do they want to get another corner to go opposite of Tyreek Woolen? I'm going to say Pete Carroll and company feel comfortable enough when the time comes to draft Jalen Carter, who right there with Will Anderson, in my opinion, 1A, 1B, and it's almost like not even 1A and 1B. It's like 1A and 1A minus. Jalen Carter, really good player. No problem if someone wants to tell me that he's the best player in the class. I could be talked into it 100%. Because especially when you take into consideration, it is harder to generate pass rush from the interior. So if you find a player that can do it the way that Jalen Carter does, more important than somebody that can generate pass rush on the edge, harder to find. It's the quickest way to the quarterback. So Jalen Carter, fantastic player, goes at number 5 here, just because we don't know how much, if at all, he's going to slide and who's going to be the team to stop it if it does happen. The Detroit Lions at 6. Case definitely there for edge for them. There's not like a defensive lineman, like interior, that would make sense here, in my opinion. I mean, Lucas Van Ness to me is more of an interior guy than an edge. I think he's better inside, but he's not going to go here. This is so popular, but I can't stray away from it. I've done it multiple times. Christian Gonzalez is going to be the pick here for me, and Dan Campbell in that defense. I think he's prototypical height, weight, speed, corner. Tested really well. Obviously, everybody expected that to happen. Really good ball skills. The bloodlines are there. I think that this guy goes for sure in the top 10. I think this is a great landing spot for him and a Detroit team that just keeps getting better. A lot of people falling in love with what they're doing, what their process has been here, and how they've gotten better. But yeah, really like this pick for them. I think that's a great landing spot. Vegas became a lot more interesting. Obviously, they are not getting Aaron Rodgers. What is their plan at quarterback? Well, for me, it's going to be Will Levis. They take the 4th and I think like final quarterback that we're going to see go in the 1st round, in my opinion. But there's going to be teams that I think have him as their QB1. Or Josh McDaniels in the Raiders going to be one of those teams? Potentially, but I don't think that they really have much of an option here either. I don't love Will Levis. That's the way that I keep telling it to people. Production way down in 2022, was playing with a bad foot, bad left shoulder. So anytime he really wasn't going to his left a whole lot, wasn't able to be used as a runner and show off his athleticism the way he did in 2021. Also didn't have the NFL talent around him that he did. Not that there was a ton of NFL talent around him, but, he had a weapon in Wan'Dale Robinson, Kennard on the offensive line. Like, there were some pieces there that were going to play on Sundays at the next level in 2021. He didn't have that in 2022, and he himself wasn't good. I think there's a lot of things like pre and post snap, the way he goes through his progressions, his decision-making that needs cleaned up. But you want to talk about arm strength. I mean, this guy's got it in bunches, and the way, maybe the best release in the class. So I think there's things to work with there. I think very good chance that he's a good NFL quarterback. Again, landing spot for him. Is this the right place? They have a good bit of weapons, as long as Devontae Adams is going to be happy there. Is Darren Waller still going to be there? There's been, trade talks for about 18 months now with him. Hunter Renfrow, nice security blanket, but they obviously keep adding weapons too. But yeah, I definitely like the landing spot. I'm not a huge Josh McDaniels guy though. So that will be interesting to see how, he fits into that offense. Atlanta at 8. This is going to be keep the guy in Georgia, maybe going a little bit down the board here. Nolan Smith tested like we knew that he was going to test, but I think we needed to see him test that way in order for me to feel good about this. This was something that I felt pretty decent about pre-combine, post-combine. I'm like, yeah, I got to just keep the guy in Georgia. And I think that's a great story first and foremost, but also not able to play a ton of football last year with that injury. So he needed to have the combine that he did to, kind of go within these top 15 or so picks. And it's possible he doesn't, but I really like this landing spot for him in Atlanta, who just need to get better on the edge. They haven't had pass rush in a long time. Over the course of the last 3 seasons, they by far have the fewest sacks in the NFL. And I think that this is a nice step. Really good run defender right now. I think he's got to work on some of his pass rush moves. But I think the ceiling is there for sure. Nolan Smith staying in Georgia for the Atlanta Falcons. Really like that. Now the Bears here, they have a plethora of options here. They could trade back again. I think Devin Witherspoon makes sense on the other side of Jalen Johnson. But I think we're just going to play it safe. You've shown now that Justin Fields is going to be your guy. Not only did you show that by moving back in the draft, you also acquired another weapon as opposed to what could have been another draft pick from what a lot of people are saying. They forego that to make sure you get DJ Moore in that trade. Let's continue to invest in him. Let's get him some help on that offensive line. Paris Johnson Jr. This could be Skoronski. I don't know that Chicago is one of those teams. I legitimately don't know. Do they view him as a tackle? Do they view him as a guard? To me, you try him at tackle for sure. He's just a really good football player, though. And then, are they one of the teams that Broderick Jones OT1? I think there's a conversation where it's the same as the quarterbacks, where all 4 quarterbacks are going to have teams that feel their QB1. I think with these top tackles, you're going to have different teams that feel their tackle one. For me, Chicago, I just think Paris Johnson Jr., safest bet, best blend of those 2 guys. Again, get Fields some more help on that offensive line. Philly at 10. This is so okay, in a previous mock that I did, just Bijan Robinson. To me, top 5 player in this class for sure. Obviously, positional value, being that he is a running back, not necessarily there. You're going to lose Miles Sanders, in my opinion. Get a rookie contract. You get 5 years at least of Bijan Robinson, who's going to walk into the NFL and, in my opinion, be a top 5 running back. But with the James Bradbury situation, pretty clear he's not going to be back. Darius Slay, 32 now. Something going on there with the contract too. He hasn't necessarily requested a trade from what they're saying. However, he wants more guaranteed money on his deal, which I get. He's still playing at a very high level. Second half of last season wasn't great. But yeah, he's trying to just, make sure he's getting paid. He wants more money. So to me, it's going to be corner. And to me, it's going to be Devin Witherspoon for them. Again, so tempted. Is that really a Howie Roseman pick? Because it's not the trenches. But I think the corner is going to be just such a pressing need now and in the future, in the very near future. Devin Witherspoon makes a ton of sense for them. I also think it's just a great fit in terms of the player and team. In my opinion, this is one of the better team fit players. So yeah, Devin Witherspoon for Philly for now and the very near future. Tennessee, they're going to be the second team to take a tackle. Obviously, this is just, they might as well shout it from the mountaintops that they need a tackle here. Don't think it's something that they address in free agency. I think they want to draft Taylor Lewan's replacement. And then it becomes, which one of these guys? And you could even, don't get me wrong, they might go down the board a little bit. I don't know that a ton of people expect them to take Isaiah Wilson. When they did, it wasn't this high, obviously, and that didn't pan out. But I think they go Peter Skoronski here. Again, that could be tackle 1 on their board. We don't know. But just a really good football player. You try him at tackle. Hopefully that works out. If not, in my opinion, you have a really good guard. But, I don't think that you can just be scared away so much by the arm length you don't even give him a shot at tackle, because the film shows that he can play tackle. Let him try to do so on Sundays. Houston's got a bunch of options here at 12. That we already got them their new franchise quarterback at 2. Yeah, they need edge help. Very possible, D'Amico Ryans could bring in some of that in free agency. A lot of talk about Tyree Wilson going much higher than this, though, and in this scenario, he slid here. So we will bank on the trades at this point. Not a ton of production at Texas Tech, but again, you're drafting him because of the multiple traits and think you get him in an NFL program, coach him up, and the sky is the limit for this guy because of the traits that he possesses. The New York Jets, again, one of those teams, they need tackle help. Broderick Jones is going to be the guy for me. Very well could be protecting for Aaron Rodgers. We should know that in the very near future. By the time you guys are watching this video, we might know that because they were hoping to have something done before, this illegal tampering window opened up and free agency opened up. But yeah, is this pick? I don't think this pick is going to the Packers by any means. It doesn't sound like the compensation is going to need to be that high, but possible that the Jets don't even have this pick. I think they still will. I think they need help on that offensive line. Mekhi Becton looks like he's in really good shape. That's awesome. Hope he gets back onto the football field. But Dwayne Brown, 38 years old, obviously not the long-term solution there. I think they need another tackle in-house. Broderick Jones is a very good one. The Patriots could be receiver, could be corner. I think this is one of the more, kind of going off script picks because I'm going tackle, and I'm not going with Anton Harrison. I'm also not going Darnell Wright. DeJuan Jones, with that losing Isaiah Wynn, I think they go down the board a little bit, get their right tackle with a future. Freak athlete when you consider the size. 6'8", 300 and gazillion pounds, and moves the way that he does. Very impressive stuff. I think Belichick fell in love with him at the Senior Bowl, even though he only got one day of practice in. Yeah, I think this is one of the picks that, I'm kind of drawing my line in the sand and saying that this is one I feel pretty good about in terms of the player and team fit. And there it is, the replacement for Isaiah Wynn on that offensive line. Green Bay at 15. Ooh, a ton of different options they could go. Tight end has been very popular here. Obviously, losing Robert Tonyan likely in free agency, not going to be back. I just think, man, this is just to me a Packers pick. Lucas Van Ness, the inside-outside versatility. They love getting edge defenders very early in drafts, spending high capital on them, letting them grow into their role. Maybe he comes in as a rotational guy and ends up taking over at some point down the line. Again, I actually like him rushing from the interior a little bit more, but you can move him kind of all along that defensive line. I think Green Bay makes a ton of sense scheme-wise for them. I think Lucas Van Ness is a very good football player, and I think this is probably about the range where he's going to go. There's some talk of him being inside that, top 12. I would have considered Miles Murphy here, too, for sure. I think he would make a ton of sense. I think even, going down a little bit, Isaiah Foskey definitely seems like a Packer to me. But, yeah, to me, Lucas Van Ness is the guy here. For Washington, this one's pretty simple. Corner, most pressing need for sure, and also just a really good player still on the board here in Joey Porter Jr., which is going to upset Steelers fans, but we weren't going to go that direction even if he was on the board, just based off what I've heard and what I will stand by. So to me, Joey Porter Jr. goes to Washington, fills a need for sure, and Washington has their CB1 of the future. I think, people talk about him being a little bit handsy. I think he did a really good job of cleaning that up in 2022. Just one penalty. It came in the first half of the first game, where he got a little handsy. But the ball skills are going to be another thing people talk about. But, maybe those pass deflections that he had, 11 of, maybe those turn into turnovers at the next level. Just that length, you can't teach it, So I think that there's just a lot of things where it's this guy has so many things that we can't teach. Let's see if we can teach him some of the stuff that you can't. and see if he picks up on it. So I feel really good about that one too. Pittsburgh at 17. Again, I don't think that's their guy regardless. I'm going down a little bit here. I think like Deonte Banks for me definitely in play. I know a lot of people probably wouldn't love that. I'm going to get younger on the defensive line. We're going Brian Brzee. They're taking a little bit of a swing here, and I think Detroit probably would have taken him at 18 if we didn't. But I think with Brian Brzee, he can play along any position on that defensive line. I think that, you look at Cam Hayward still producing at a very high level, but getting up there in age. The Marvin Leal is kind of a tweener, and you don't have much else. Chris Wormley's a free agent. Is Larry Ogunjobi going to be back? Potentially. He could have priced himself out of Pittsburgh, but there's been some talk by, people that cover the team that he is a priority for the Steelers to bring back. We will see on that. But Tyson Alualu's gone. That defensive line needs some new faces. To me, the value lines up. I think that they fall in love with the player. He's versatile. And Brian Brzee with some of the best hand usage in the class along the defensive line. If he can get back to that level that he was playing at in 2020, this is a steal. I think that we had him basically locked in as a top 10 pick going into 2021. Obviously, the knee injury tore his ACL last year, just a rough year all around, dealing with the loss of his sister and some other things. Production has been down. So I think that's why he falls here. And that works out for the Steelers. This works out for the Lions, though, who can get Myles Murphy, who, in my opinion, really solid player. Now, how high is the ceiling? I'm not sure, but I think, and just in terms of like what that baseline is, he is a very good football player. I think that he fits the Dan Campbell mold of what they want. I understand, obviously, you got Aiden Hutchinson, who they invested in last season with the second overall pick, had a very good rookie year, and you probably feel good about that. Houston on the other side had a really good rookie year, which you probably weren't expecting, but you need at least 3 edge rushers to be productive in today's NFL. And I think Myles Murphy fits the Dan Campbell mold. Keep investing in that. You can never have enough pass rush. 19 to the Bucks. Yeah, I think CB is where I'm leaning. To me, is it Deonte Banks, though? Or is it Keely Ringo, or is it Cam Smith? I mean, Emmanuel Forbes, because of the measurables, might not be in play here, but the ball skills are so good. I think it's going to be Deonte Banks. I think that he is what Tampa is looking for in their corners. He's almost like a Joey Porter light, in my opinion, like a lot of similarities there in terms of the way that they play. So, would you rather have Joey Porter where you got him, or a little bit further down and get Deonte Banks? I really like Deonte Banks. The only reason I mentioned him at 17 and Steelers fans being upset is probably name recognition. Obviously, Joey Porter Jr. Does everybody know Deonte Banks out of Maryland? A really good athlete. I don't know. Seattle at 20. Wide receiver has been a very popular pick, like Jackson Smith and Jigba makes a ton of sense for them. Did any of the other receivers? I'm actually going to go Osiris Torrance here, though. I think they definitely need help. The interior of that offensive line. I think he's the first interior guy to go off the board. And I think Seattle is a great landing spot for him. Pete Carroll in that offense. He just gave Geno Smith a new contract, continue to protect him. I think you can add a weapon a little bit further down the line, because obviously in today's NFL, you want at least 3-4 good pass catching weapons. Tyler Lockett getting up there in age. I know he still has a few years on his contract. DK Metcalf, he gave a 3-year deal too. Obviously, is he going to be there long term? Just a 3-year deal, and we're 1 year into that now. But yeah, I think just continue to protect Geno Smith and get better on that offensive line. Which to me, if I'm looking at Seattle, that's definitely one of the glaring issues that I'd be looking to address is the interior of that offensive line. Finally, we will see a weapon come off the board here to the Chargers. Now, the question is going to be, who is that first receiver off the board? It's not going to be who you guys think. I'm going Zay Flowers as the first guy off the board. And it's really just because it's the team that is taking the first guy. Zay Flowers, just 5'10", but man, he can fly. I think he is your prototypical slot guy in that offense, but he can win on the outside too. So it'll be interesting to see like how you decide to use him and Keenan Allen, who can both win on the inside and outside. But also, this is your, Keenan Allen. Who knows what the future holds for him? I think he's there this year, but beyond that, I'm not sure. So get another weapon to go along with Justin Herbert and Mike Williams in that offense. Would they be the team, though? I'll just mention, even though I didn't pick him, would they be the team to take Bijan Robinson and just say, we got Austin Eckler here for another year, but we're not going to pay him. So after this season, Austin Eckler's out, Bijan Robinson's in, Justin Herbert and Bijan Robinson in the backfield. Stupid. Sticking with, now we got a receiver go off the board, and now we got Baltimore on the board, and they're thinking, oh, well, we better take our guy. Who is their guy? I'm going Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to be their number one receiver on the board, and they take him at 23. Will we see receivers fall this far? Maybe somebody takes a swing a little bit earlier than this. This is about the range for me where we start to see a little bit of a run, and it's going to happen here fast. So Baltimore jumps on the train. They get a pass catching weapon for maybe Lamar. We will see. But Jackson Smith-Njigba, he had a really nice combine after not playing much football in 2022. And I think he's going to be the number one receiver on a lot of teams' boards in what is probably not like a very top-heavy, great class, but it's got a ton of depth to it, in my opinion. A lot of guys that you can get on days 2 and 3, they're going to be contributors. But Jackson Smith-Njigba right there at the top is one of the best in the bunch. His ability to release the line of scrimmage, what he can do in space. Very, very big fan of Jackson Smith-Njigba. 24 to the Vikings. After the Adam Thielen thing, is wide receiver going to be in play for them? I think it absolutely is. But going back to what I just said, I think that they'll probably wait until day 2 to do it, because I think they get a corner here. They just waived Cam Dantzler, so I think that there's definitely a good chance. It's like corner or wide receiver to me. Those are going to be the two things in play. I'm going to give him Cam Smith out of South Carolina here. In my opinion, one of the top, 3 guys at the position. I really like his game. I think he's very good in helping out in run support too, which is something that they're going to covet there. Brian Flores, the new defensive coordinator. I think it makes a ton of sense for them to covet a guy like this. So Cam Smith, really good press corner, but again, physical, wants to help out in the run game. I think Brian Flores is going to fall in love with him, and I think he pounds the table for a guy like that. Jacksonville at 25. I think they would have loved a guy like Osiris Torrance. I think Keely Ringo's in play here. Obviously you're getting Calvin Ridley back, so I'm not saying like they don't need another weapon, but that's not necessarily on the board for me. Evan Ingram back for at least a season. So they have a ton of options for which way they could go. But is Jawan Taylor going to be back? Very much in question. Anton Harrison, I'm going to give to them there, who, is he in that top tier, or is he in a tier below? That's a lot of people's questions and debates. Is he with the Skoronskis, Broderick Jones, Paris Johnsons of the world, or is he like at the top of that second tier? I really like Anton Harrison. It's funny because there was like at the combine, there was the misinformation put out about his arm length, and everybody started freaking out saying, oh my goodness, he's not even a tackle, he's a guard because of that arm length. Anton Harrison's a really good player, some of the best footwork in the class. I really like him. Is he going to be able to play on the left side in the NFL? That's up for debate. I think that you start him over there and see how he does. We'll see. Cam Robinson, they gave a new deal to, but I don't know. I think Anton Harrison, you get him there, and I think very early he shows that he's the best tackle on that roster. The Giants at 26. If they would have let Saquon go, this would have been easy. Just take Bijan Robinson. Which, by the way, man, Bijan, is he even going to be here? Like at this point, like I understand the positional value thing, but come on, like somebody's probably going to take a swing earlier than this. I just don't know who it's going to be. Like that's the problem with this whole thing. But for the Giants, I don't love the player, but I'm giving him Quentin Johnston, who I think landing spot, very, 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 very important. Brian Daboll's offense, I think it makes a ton of sense. I think that coaching staff, Mike Kafka, they're going to do a great job with him. So I think this is very important for him to get there, learn how to win above the rim. He's already good when you get the football in his hands, but how are you get the football in his hands? Playing in the Big 12, not asked to do a whole lot, doesn't have the greatest route tree. There were some inconsistencies at the catch point, despite his size, maybe making you think otherwise. But there's things to work with there. You can mold him, and I think that you got a high ceiling player, but not necessarily the safest guy. Like I think, as is the case with a lot of Big 12 guys who aren't asked to do a whole lot and don't go against like NFL style defenses, the bust rate is pretty high. But I think this is a great landing spot for Quentin Johnston. I think he's probably wide receiver 1 or 2 on their board, just looking at what they want to do. Dallas at 27, man, how are they going to go off the map a little bit? That's the question. Oh, I know. Mozzie Smith, who I said probably 3 weeks, a month ago, that I think he sneaks into the first round. Like everybody's talking about like where Kalijah Cansey's going to go. I think Mozzie Smith's a guy that sneaks into the first round. It happens every year with guys like, the only reason I'm saying his name is because I see the Saints coming up a few picks like Peyton Turner. Up until like a day or two before the draft, no one was talking about him as a first rounder. Jordan Brooks a few years ago to Seattle. Like there's always going to be a guy or two that sneaked into the first round. Dallas, Tyler Smith, even last year, maybe a little bit of a surprise. I had him mocked to the Titans last year in the first round, so right around that same range. Dallas, in my opinion, Mozzie Smith's a good player too, by the way. Like I'm not trying to say he's not. I just don't know that a lot of people are picking him to go in the first round here. I got him on the back end. Pretty good athlete at the position. I think he fills a need for Dallas. They need somebody in the interior of that defense. Mozzie Smith makes a ton of sense. Jerry Jones probably to be upset that they don't draft a receiver here, but this is where the slide ends for Bijan. Buffalo, who, if he's off the board, I think you can make the case for Jahmyr Gibbs, who's another really good running back in this class, who, again, positional value maybe doesn't line up, but he deserves to be a first-round player. Bijan Robinson, what can you even say about the guy? He can play receiver if you want to. He can do everything as a running back. Buffalo has not had that at the position for a long time, and it's been their Achilles heel when they get to the playoffs. You got to be able to run the football. I understand that the running back position has been devalued a ton, but when you are watching the Bills lose the games that they're losing the way that they're losing, they got to get somebody. All right. Cincinnati still has their pick of the tight ends, and that's where I go. Michael Mayer with Hayden Hurst leaving town. I think Michael Mayer is the best combination of pass catcher and inline blocker. If they wanted more of the inline blocking route, Darnell Washington. If they wanted strictly the pass catcher, Dalton Kincaid. I think they get the best of both worlds here. And Michael Mayer, who's going to be a really good player at the next level, in my opinion. I love Dalton Kincaid. He's my favorite tight end in this class. But I think Michael Mayer, like I said, offers the best combination that Cincinnati is going to be coveting, in my opinion. So that's where we're going. The New Orleans Saints are going Kalijah Cansey here, who is the best pass rusher from the interior in this class, in my opinion. Don't expect him to offer a whole lot in the run game. That's not his strong suit by any means, coming out of Pitt. Very familiar with his game, shorter arms. People are going to have the comparisons to Aaron Donald, obviously, with the way that he tested athletically and everything like that, being a little bit of an undersized interior defensive player. But no, Kalijah Cansey's Kalijah Cansey. But I think he's going to be able to get after the quarterback from the inside. Derek Bell, one of my good friends who was one of the best at covering the draft, went as far as saying he's the best pass rusher in this class, period. He is a really good player. And I think that this is a great scheme fit for New Orleans, and they just need to get better in that aspect. And also, I would have taken him here for Philly one pick later, 100%. So now with Philly on the board and not having that luxury, we're going to give him Jahmyr Gibbs with Miles Sanders once again still leaving town. So, yeah, Eagles fans are probably going to be upset because didn't go in the trenches. I think Hade Adebaware would make a ton of sense for them. I really like that fit. Even if you went on the offensive side, because they need some long-term answers there too. But yeah, I love that fit for them. Jahmyr Gibbs with Miles Sanders leaving town. Really good. I think he's a 3-down guy. Yeah, not much else to say on him. And then finally, Kansas City to wrap up round number 1. I'm going to do it. I've seen a lot of people throwing this out there, running a lot of 12 personnel. Dalton Kincaid, and you also got your long-term answer with Travis Kelce getting up there in age. So, who again is in my opinion, my favorite tight end in this class. I think he's the best pass-catching tight end in this class. I don't think he's going to be asked to do a lot of inline blocking. You can line him up as like a big slot where he wins a ton in space, really good after the catch. Utah used him in so many different ways. They line him up inside, outside, get him some screen passes. But I love the fit here for Kansas City right away, but this is also the long-term answer at tight end for you. And they're kind of in a spot where, man, they can take whatever. Who's going to question the Kansas City Chiefs, regardless of what pick they make? So Dalton Kincaid here to wrap things up. So here we go. CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Will Anderson Jr. Now the ads all pop up here now that I'm wrapped up. That's great. Anthony Richardson, Jalen Carter, Christian Gonzalez, Will Levis, Nolan Smith, Paris Johnson Jr., Devin Witherspoon, Peter Skoronski, Tyree Wilson, Broderick Jones, DeJuan Jones, Lucas Van Ness, Joey Porter Jr., Brian Brzee, Miles Murphy, Deontay Banks, Osiris Torrance, Zay Flowers, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Cam Smith, Anton Harrison, Quentin Johnston, Mozzie Smith, Bijan Robinson, Michael Mayer, Kalijah Cansey, Jahmyr Gibbs, Dalton Kincaid. And that wraps up this first round mock draft. Panthers with a big shakeup. How's it going to affect things? Let me know in the comments how you feel about this, how you feel about your team's picks or any other selections. I'm going to be doing a 3-round mock draft with Jake Chaving, and I also just mentioned Derek. He'll be doing this with me too. So very much looking forward to that. 3 rounds, full mock draft, every single team. That's going to be coming to you guys soon. Going to continue doing the mock draft, 4-round mock draft by team as well. But thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave me a like, hit that notification bell. Leave me a comment down below, and we'll see you next time.